Thanks, Gnarly. I just had to switch my internet over. I've got two services, and the one that you would think would be best is not. The one that's an unlimited connection is not very good. It's not very stable. And so I use one that's got a data limit on it. It's got a better connection. But I often forget to, because I use the unlimited one for watching YouTube and downloading games, and then I use the limited one for streaming, so I often forget to switch them over at the start of the stream, and I thought I'll just test it this time and see how it goes. And yeah, just no good. Forgot what we were talking about. Magic, wasn't it? Cultivation of magic. Magical energies. Cultivate the love. You can't go wrong if you cultivate the love. You've got to understand that when you're opening yourself up to these energies, it has karmic consequences. That means it will affect what happens to you when you die. So if you're cultivating love with your energy, then that's where you go. That's what dictates your future. If you cultivate power and material gain and profit, then well, that world is always subject to harm, causing harm. To profit from another person's existence is to, well, to minimize their existence. So those energies tend to come back around, karmically speaking. But if you're cultivating love, well, that's a force. It's an infinite, unlimited force, and it can always give. So that comes back around, where you are taken care of, you are loved. So you focus on love, cultivating kindness and compassion and understanding. And that's how you maintain contact. Never forget your own human misery. Never forget your own struggle out of the darkness. And then when you encounter other people that are going through the same thing, you'll know how to respond in a loving way. You'll know how to care for people. That way you never lose your humanity. You'll transcend it, you'll rise above your humanity, but you'll never forget it. Have you played Skyrim, Gnarly? Or like an Elder Scrolls title? Oblivion or Morrowind or Daggerfall or any of the other similar games. Dragonblade armor. So in those games, and it's not really about the game specifically, but you know the temptation that can arise when you're playing a game like that to I mean, you know, you're playing a video game, right? They're all NPCs, you know, they're not real. And the temptation to just kill everyone, use your power, use your magical power to affect the world however you want because you don't care about the consequences. GTA, exactly. So that kind of temptation arises when, as you're going through the process of beginning to understand the nature of reality, not through knowledge, but through experience, these types of perspectives can be born in you and can hover in you for a while. You start to see the illusion of this world and the illusion of this life and the illusion of people and the illusion of people's dreams. And from your point of view, it's all just a dream, meaningless. But from their point of view, it's very real. So if you lose your humanity too much, you'll forget their perspective. You'll forget their point of view, and it can be very tempting. And not even tempting, but just it can feel very natural to you to not care. To not care about other people's experiences. And so it's a wise master, as in there are those who stick around to help out as you ascend and as your consciousness evolves and expands. There are those who stick around to help out, to help those who are still trying to wake up from the dream. Kind of like Morpheus in the Matrix, and Neo actually, later on, once he's awoken and he becomes realized. Those types of beings are the most important when it comes to humanity and the human race and the experience of being a human being. Those people are considered the absolute pinnacle of human evolution because they have realized the nature of the dream, of the human experience and the illusion of life as an individual, and so they have taken their consciousness to the highest possible point, and they have chosen to stick around to help other people who are still trying to wake up. From the point of view of the force of life, which is intelligent, those people are the most important people in the community because they know the truth about what it means to be a being, to the nature of the mind and how it dreams itself into existence. They can see through the dream and they can see through the lies and the deceptions of the dream. Dreams tend to feel very real. And there is still the knowledge that any dream can turn into a nightmare. and that a lot of people are still stuck in those nightmares and they don't know how to get out. And so they act as guides, servicemen and women. They live in service to this higher functioning of consciousness and the process of awakening from delusion. And so it's always encouraged that that's the way you go. If you start to cultivate real magic, it's always encouraged. Well, not by everyone. Some beings encourage self-centeredness. I've heard the meditation done in the opposite way. We are visualizing the disappearance of reality, the disappearance of physical existence or physical experience. So that's what is meant by cultivate the love, the energy of love, because a lot of people use magic for selfish means, and there's nothing wrong with using it to make yourself happy, but sometimes our curiosities and our fascinations descend into dangerous places, and we may want to go to those places for the sake of our own happiness. And at that point, things start to get a little bit tricky. Reincarnation, yeah, okay. It's nice to remember those things, isn't it? Helps to give you a clear perspective. What did you say? Ah. Was it a sigh? A long sigh? Or was it a short sort of ah? A discovery, okay. Yeah, it's nice to get back to that every now and again. It reminds me of the opposite. So, once upon a time I worked in a severe dementia ward, and there was a lady there who obviously was suffering from severe dementia, what they call severe dementia, which actually in this particular example, she had no foundation of spirituality whatsoever, and she had not made any kind of contact with any kind of experience other than her own physical perception of life in a single body. That's all she'd ever known. I don't know specifics about whether she was religious or not. It's really, I mean, it's essentially it's irrelevant. It would be interesting to know, but so this is how she ended up right at the end of her life, because she had no grounding in spirituality and she had not contacted any form of energy other than her own physical experience of life, probably a very psychological one as well. She developed severe dementia, so her brain was breaking down, and she was probably in her 70s. Maybe she was in her late 70s. She might have even been a little bit older, early to mid 80s. And she wasn't very sick physically, so that means her body's still going to last a while, another 10, 15 years. But her brain had broken down to the point where she had a 5-second memory. So she would be put in her room. Very often they leave the doors open for the patients, really, I guess you would call them patients. And she would be lying in bed, totally silent. And then, if you walked into the room, because you had to walk in and check on these people sometimes, make sure they're okay, make sure they're not in pain or in discomfort or whatever. And she would be totally still, quiet, and then as soon as she detected you and your presence or somebody's presence, she would become terrified, and she would say the same thing over and over again. Help me, I'm lost, I don't know where I am. And you would say, I can't quite remember her name, let's just say it was Mary. It's okay, Mary, don't worry, you're totally fine, you're totally safe, we're here to help you. You might get her a drink of water, or bring her food or something. Then she would sort of, oh, okay, all right, as if, all right, I believe you, I'm okay now. And she would lie down. 5 seconds later, she would look at you. Help me, I'm lost, I don't know where I am. And she was stuck in this loop where her consciousness had not made any kind of substantial contact with life outside of herself, and herself was disappearing. Actually, it had already disappeared to the point where she couldn't retain any of it anymore. Her brain was no longer, because she's getting old, her body's falling apart, her brain's falling apart. And so her existence, her experience of existence, was one where no self could be retained. And the moment any kind of self came into existence for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, it was terrified. It had no grounding and no security in spirituality, and it had no peace that comes from connecting with something much larger than yourself, which doesn't end. And so your experience of coming out of that state was one of like a friendly recognition, or a recognition of this dimension, something familiar. Whereas somebody who's never had contact with anything like that, it's pure fear and pure terror to wake up in a place where you don't know where you are, and you have no memory, you don't know how you got there, and you don't know who you are. You're lost. That entity is lost. Karmically speaking, they're lost. They are lost in existence itself. Imagine being a spirit that is so disconnected from reality, so disconnected from true identity of cosmic awareness, that has been disconnected from that for so long that you are literally lost in the cycle of incarnation. And so everywhere you wake up, you have no idea where you are, you have no idea how you got there. And any identity that forms can only form for a short amount of time, and then you lose that as well. Isn't that a very interesting and scary, ultimately, prospect? I like to talk about things like that to try to help people realize the reality of not looking into spirituality in this life. Interesting. Isn't it strange, the nature of the mind, these types of experiences that it can end up in, because it gets so lost in itself? Fascinating, really. People end up so afraid to go into themselves, and by people I mean spirits, to come into a life that is so heavily conditioned because of past karma. It is so conditioned to be terrified of its own nature, to be scared to even acknowledge its own existence or non-existence, the illusion of its existence. And it becomes so terrified that it traps itself in a hell because it's trying to run away from itself life after life after life after life. And that hell just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Interesting. So when you move towards love, love in your own heart, love in the present moment, you're moving towards a very ancient force that's with you life after life after life. So if you can make true contact in this life, you set yourself up constantly to return to that. Uh-huh. You know the symbol of the pentagram when it's the right way up? Spirit reigning above the matter. Mind over matter, spirit over matter. That's what you return to. It's a very important symbol, that. The spirit of this life is at peace. Whereas the matter exists only in temporary states of harmony. It is bound by vibration and fluctuation of energies, so it's chaotic. Spirit is one, matter is multiplicity. So if you get consumed by if you get consumed by matter in your experience, you get fragmented over and over again, fragmented by temporary states of consciousness, all of which tries to split you up over and over and over again, causing greater and greater instability in your experience. That's the inverted pentagram. Shredder, how's it going? Welcome back. Whereas when it's the right way up, you're bringing the spirit back. The spirit back in charge of the situation. The spirit of life. So the matter can do whatever it wants to do. It has no power over you. Whereas the one spirit, which is unified and totally at peace, that governs all of your experience. What's going on, Shredder? How's life? How's today? How's your day been? Say it, feel free. Ooh, that's an interesting place to start, isn't it? And when we say what I even want, are we talking about what I want with my life? What direction I want for my life? Is that what we mean? What direction do I want to go in? Life direction. What's most important to you in life? What do you value the most? Tends to be the way it goes as you get older. Believing in the illusion of materiality tends to be a young person's game, as in a young form of consciousness. And it is that way because it wants to be that way. It wants to play the game of materiality. But as you get older and you start to see that with that game, at least at this point in human evolution on this planet, we get sold a massive lie that the material, to pursue the material, is going to make us happy. To pursue the material, material gain is what you're supposed to do, and that you're going to be happy when you get there if you get all of the things in order. Now, to pursue materiality is not a problem at all. Want to create video games? Go ahead and do it. Nothing wrong with that. But to think that that's going to make you happy in the long term, or to think that that's what you're supposed to be doing, that's the lie. Material experience cannot fulfill you ever. It's not possible. All materiality is temporary. So to think that any form of materiality can fulfill you, well, that's just a lie. It's simply a delusion. Again, there's nothing wrong with it in and of itself. We all do that, and we have to pursue materiality if we want to continue to exist as human beings. We have to continue to eat. We have to look after our bodies. We have to cultivate a kind of life. You have to live somewhere. Maybe you need to be a part of a community, whatever. That's part of the human experience. But to think that that's the meaning of life, or that you have to do it to make you happy, that's where people get stuck. And it's just a lie. It's not true. There's something much deeper within you which is not governed by materiality. It has its own experience of life. And that thing is always content. It's always happy. It's always peaceful. And it's full of energy, and it's full of passion, and it's full of joy, and it's full of love. And so it tends to be the way that it goes for people. They get caught up in the illusion of materiality and the delusions that are associated with it, and as they get older they start to see through it. So you feel happy when you're creating things. Do you not feel happy anyway? Do you not feel happy simply with your own existence? Is the fact that you're here not reason enough to be happy? Experience is fascinating, don't you think? Experience. Not a particular kind of experience, but experience in and of itself. The fact that you're here. I don't know how much time you've spent being here. That means to acknowledge the fact that you're here and that experience is happening right now. That's wonderful, and it's beyond fascinating to sit and be aware that this is happening, that this present moment is taking place, and you have no idea how that's happening. You have no idea how any of this got here. You have no idea where it came from. But it's happening. I mean, it's okay to be okay with that too. Of course you can go off and do things if you want to. You can create whatever you want. But I'd have to recommend that when it comes to happiness, you start at 0. If we think we can only be happy when we get to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's like we're saying that at 0 we're not good enough, you know. This present moment in and of itself is not enough to satisfy me. That's what we're saying. And so then it's like we're always trying to add more and more and more to try to make it more. But if we can be happy with 0, then everything else is a bonus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take it to whatever level you want. Your creation. But it's not in the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is what you start with in this particular perspective. But conditioning in the modern world tends to make us unhappy with nothing. We think we're supposed to be something. Your purpose is just what you choose. So you have a purpose in the sense you are living, you are existing right now, as a human being here, life is experiencing itself through that body. That's your purpose. That's the ultimate purpose of human experience, to be. That is it. And you've been doing that since you were born. Perfectly. You can't get that wrong. If you have a body and you're here having an experience, you are the conduit through which life gets to know itself. You can't get that wrong. You've been doing that since you were born. That's the zero. That's zero. Ground zero. That's just by breathing, being here, and watching what's happening in this little corner of the universe. You're doing that. You've always been doing that. But when it comes to what do you want to do with your human experience and the amazing capacity that you have to express yourself this way and have this type of experience and take yourself in this direction or that direction, that's up to you to decide. You get to choose that. I agree, Gnarly. The problem comes in when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, you know. We've been conditioned this way. Our psychology is conditioned at the moment to feel like we need to be more. Like we're not good enough. How many people, I don't know if you're engaged a lot with various mental health communities, but how many people think they're not good enough? They have this, what they call limiting belief, tends to be the way that it's labeled. I feel unworthy or like I'm not good enough. How many people have that? A lot. A lot of people harbor that view of themselves. Good enough to meet the expectation of someone, society. Good enough to meet the demands of what exactly? But when it comes to purpose, that's yours to decide. Now, there's many things you can do. Have a good day, Gnarly. See you next time round. A good day or night. I think it's daytime, isn't it, where you are? Purpose is yours to decide and design. There's a lot you could do. You could take yourself in a wide number of directions, and you're free to choose any of those. As in that sense, it really just means what you want to do. But by being here, you're already fulfilling your true purpose, the reason you were born. The reason you were born is to be here and have this experience. To have the experience of life at this point in the evolution of consciousness, at this point in the universe. That's it. So you've been doing that since you were born. But what kind of fun you want to have while you're here, and what kind of realms you want to go into within the human experience, how you want to earn money, what kind of life you want to live, all of that's up to you. You're given free reign over all that. You can make up your own mind. That's your gift, you know. You're already doing your job so well by being here. Now you get to do whatever you want with it. So I guess getting to the core of what you want, what do you think when it comes time to leave this body behind and you can reflect back on the life that you've had here, what do you think that version of yourself would like to see? How you spent your life? Do you want to live a life whereby you just chase after your own desires? Try this thing for a while, experience it, lose interest in it, move on to the next one, try that experiment for a while, do that for a bit, experience it, then move on to the next one. Just your own desires, your own thoughts, your own personal interests, because there's nothing wrong with that. At the same time, you could live for a cause. Some people like to live for a cause. Do you want to help end world hunger, for example? Do you want to dedicate yourself to a particular business that you think is meaningful? It's going to bring people joy and help improve people's lives here. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want. Do you like the idea of sweeping floors? Is that something that brings you joy? Because for some people it is. It's just an example. Some people get a lot of joy out of raking leaves, believe it or not. And so when it comes to earning money, which is not the meaning of life, by the way, but it's something you have to do in this current economy if you want to live a kind of relatively a life that has, let's say, less suffering. When you know that you've got money so you can eat and your bills are paid, you tend to be able to relax a lot more. And so for somebody who enjoys raking leaves, there's plenty of people out there that'll pay you to rake the leaves in their garden, become a groundskeeper. Do you really love cars? Want to become a mechanic to pay your bills? So it's for each individual to decide. I guess also at the same time as decide, also figure out what is really meaningful. What is really meaningful to you, Shredder? Because obviously if you align your income, your job with that, then you'll probably have a pretty happy time with your job and you won't be working in misery, which tends to bite people in the arse after a while. You like Jesus, don't you? Are you still there? Alright, not sure if anyone is still watching. I'm going to call it that for now. Maybe online a little bit later. Have fun, everyone. Stay safe, stay sane. Stay out of trouble if you can. See you around.